Story 1, Chapter D. The 7 Magical Adventures of Genii. The Quest for the Ancient Wisdom Map. The Brotherhood of Pau. Presented and narrated by Jem Jara, the storyteller, representing the guiding force of fantasy and magic, residing in Fairy Tale Palace Planet. Chapter D. Ertos Inn. After several days, they went back down to Portigo, finding Ertos being busy like every day with his questions and answer session. After he was finished, he stepped off his throne, moved his head to them, being a sign to follow him. His face changed again from a foreign to a more human one, so it was easier for Genii to relate to. The hovering bed on which Morai lay started moving, and they all followed Ertos. In addition, Ertos' walk, although very heavy and creating an impact with every step made, it resembled a dance that blended harmoniously with the sounds and melodies. Even Morai's hovering bed was softly shaken by his walk. "This feels great," said Morai. "It grounds me from all my flying around in the golden space carriage through the universe. They calm every cell in your body and give them a chance to rejuvenate," added Niama. Down the stairs they went to the maze of streets where several horses were waiting for them. To Genai's surprise, there was another city here down below, as inside the walls there were endless shops selling items made from recycled waste and second-hand items. Niama explained Genii that all these shops were supplied by the Recyclons, living in Cyclondor, which they would visit one day. Of course, Morai stayed on his floating bed that took on some speed in order to keep up with the horses, but gave the warning eye to Dionyx, who had dressed everybody up in cowboy and Indian outfits, after which he changed everybody back in their long burgundy-colored robes. Ertos was still in a state of trance, and the deep sound of the do note coming from his body was becoming more and more distinct, and was met with more earth-tone sounds coming from the different villages in the surrounding mountains, produced by Golots and Dwarfins when they rode out of Portigo. Genii heard a strange sound and looked to the side, where they were testing a part of the water protection walls that surrounded the city in times of war. These water walls were water shooting out of the ground in a high speed, like being in an upside-down waterfall. There was no way to get through this pressure, she was thinking. They kept going, and then sounds were coming from a little monastery, with Gregorian chanting, and blended in the air with the sounds of drums, didgeridoo, church organs, bagpipes, and acoustic guitars, coming from other villages. It started to snow, and although there was snow everywhere, it was not cold at all. Passing some snow-covered trees, Genii took some snow in her hands, and even that didn't feel cold. Outside and all around Portigo were enormous fields of agriculture, and she could see many Dwarfins and Golots cleaning the snow on the fields, and others working in the fields harvesting the crops. Genii noticed wagons pulled by horses coming from the fields that were loaded with potatoes, beets, carrots, onions, garlic, and other root vegetables. How is this all possible? Snow, which is not cold, and harvesting in the winter? "It is a magical world, is it not?" answered Niama. "Where are we going?" "Possibly to his private inn." It was strange riding in the snow, and being surrounded by winter and not being cold at all. Genii enjoyed looking around. As she looked at Morai, she noticed that a roof was also hovering over Morai's magical bed and protecting him. Nobody talked, but enjoyed the music coming from everywhere, and the deep sound coming from Ertos. They rode for some time, slowly entering the sloping hills and viewing higher mountains. Going closer to the mountains, they ended up by a tunnel, which they entered, and many lights coming from Morai's flying bed made it very pleasant and not scary, at least not in the very first moment. When Genii looked at the walls of the tunnel, she saw it all moving, and looking closer, there were countless snakes on one side of the walls of the tunnel, and on the ceiling and other walls were millions of bats. The horses slowed down, and Niama explained to Genii that these animals were feared and hunted down by the Collecterians, just like the hawks. Genii got to know that these creatures were also sharing their space with the Recyclons in Cyclondor. Genii noticed on the wall that a bat was trapped with one of his wings. She stopped and freed the bat, who magically started to speak. "I thank you, Genii. I know that you are a little afraid of us, but I hope not any more. You have conquered your fear, and I am very thankful, as my children need me. Call on me any time you need us." "I will do so." Genii realized that the bat she just helped was the queen of the bats. Then a sound of thousands of people clapping their hands started. It was the bats that clapped with their wings and thanking Genii for helping their queen. Leaving the tunnel, they ended up at a small valley surrounded with very high mountains reaching the shell of the inner planet, and Genii could see a small village, being the center of this unique place. It felt being protected by the huge mountains and giving her an understanding how small people are. After entering the small village, they passed small houses made from wooden structures, filled in with mud, and they were all finished with a terracotta roof. The roads were made of old stone, and the pavements a blend of colorful earth-tone tiles of gray, brown, and red. Then they arrived at Ertos Inn, which looked like an old-fashioned tavern. Big stones combined with wood and old wooden window shutters. A big sign over the entrance door read, "Experience and let go." As they entered, Genii felt instantly at home, as it was so cozy. The wooden floor, the big couches, comfortable chairs, a fireplace, and the warm decorations invited one to sit back and relax. Ertos was coming out of his state of trance, and the sound coming from him disappeared. "Sorry, my friends, I was in another world and had to do some work, but I am now here for you." His voice was deep and warm, and looked Genii in her eyes. "Welcome, Genii, and thank you for bringing Morai to my realm. We are always happy to see him, and Dionyx, and Niama too, of course." He looked at Niama and Dionyx, and walked up to a big table and invited everybody to sit. Morai stayed laying down on his floating bed. Dionyx took immediately the opportunity to change everybody into very beautiful and comfortable middle-aged costumes, and he himself dressed himself up into a harlequin. Genii looked in the eyes of Ertos and said, "I am new here and would like to know more about you, and I felt uncomfortable to ask these questions amongst the people in Portugal who all seem to know who you are. My pleasure, Janai. I am Ertos, keeper of the first dimension, representing the energy of Earth, which gives form to all, and I'm also the one who assists in the recycling of all things in Crystallia, the creation. I am called the keeper of manifestations and recycling. On Mother Earth I represent the gravity, the soil, rocks and gems, and I am the ground on which you have your momentary adventure. And through my connection with the energy of the moon, the night, mountains and caves give you the time to sleep, relax and hibernate. My presence is strongly felt on the moon or moon day or Monday, as you know. And when you tune in to certain aspects of me, you might have even a better day. I give you the sense of feeling grounded in your momentary adventure, but also remind you that you cannot hold on to anything of this world. In your body, I represent myself as your skeleton, your physical foundation, and also represent myself as your skin and lower body opening, located at the rectum center, through which we eliminate. I am, however, like you and anything else in the creation, a creation of opposites. When you fail to tune into my positive side, you can experience to feel stuck and constipated, wanting to control things and people, holding on to the things of this world and even falling down into greed. Everything goes through its own phases of experiencing itself in creation and has its own lifespan, after which it recycles itself to be used again to manifest something else. Through my force I keep you busy gathering and trying to hold on to our body, family and possessions. You may ask, why would you do something like this? And I will tell you that this is part of my job. And as said before, I am part of the created world and there are two sides of me, just like within you. Janai asked, when I understand correct, Kalimobanko, the one with the many faces, is your boss? Correct. Just like Kalimobanko is your boss or master, until you become the master of your own mind. And how can I do that? You better ask this to Mariah Morrow. We will be talking about that sometime, answered Mariah. Then many servants showed up, serving them with earth energy foods. Each of these foods, Janai, spoke Ertos, directing its eyes to Janai, have a grounding value, and at the same time a cleansing one. In general, these foods are excellent to be taken in the evening, as they come from the darkness, and we, after our meal, will go into the darkness, go to sleep, facing away from the energy of the day and hibernating and rejuvenating in the darkness, under the energy of the moon. These foods are also great to consume in the wintertime, as the winter is also connected to the energy of the moon, the time to rest, hibernate, heal, rejuvenate and be more inside the home and withdrawn from the outward activities. A time to rethink and plan new beginnings to be launched in spring. Morai got served earth foods as a medicinal in the form of juices and received a carrot ginger beet juice which intensified the cleaning process of his body. Janai looked at many trophies placed on the walls, as well as awards and thank you letters from inhabitants from all over the universe. Beautiful posters and art objects portraying All the root vegetables ranging from beets, carrots, ginger, garlic, onions, potato, yams and radishes were placed all over the inn. The blend of their smells was soothing and grounding. Genii noticed on the wall a painting of a door she was familiar with. It was an entrance to Fairy Tale Palace Planet, where Jimjara the Master Story lived. Is that the door to Jimjara? Asked Genii, looking at Ertos. It is better if you ask him yourself, and smiled. Jimjara the Master Storyteller. At that moment the door opened. She could see Jimjara stepping off his flying carpet, with, in the endless space of the universe behind him, and there he was in person. He greeted all the guests, who responded enthusiastically as he walked over to their table. Some shook his hands, others hugged and kissed him. They were all happy to see him. Then the eyes of Jimjara met with Genii. He lightly bowed and asked, "How can I be of service?" A little hesitant, Genii spoke. "You are so familiar, and I know I have met you many times before, but was it real, or in my imagination or dream?" "Does it really matter, Genii?" "No, actually not, but I'm glad to see you again. But there is one more question. Did you meet my mom and dad before I was born, as they told me?" "You still doubt?" And before he could say more, Genii said, "Forget it, Jimjara. It is all okay. I am happy you came in their lives, and I am very grateful that you invited me as well." "You are most welcome, Genii. But you do not have to thank me, as the world of magic is yours to begin with. I am merely keeping you aware of that fact." Genii's eyes filled with tears. As a good storyteller knows what to do in any situation, Jimjara looked over at Ertos and spoke. "May I tell a story revealing the most negative side of our friend Ertos? Meaning when his energy is used incorrectly?" "Of course, Jimjara. Go ahead." Dionyx took the opportunity to dress everybody up in fairy tale costumes, and then interchanging them on everybody constantly until he got the eye from Morai. The story of a greedy man. "Once there was a peasant," said Jimjara as he took a seat. "This peasant had saved the life of his king, and was invited at the court. The king had told him that out of gratitude he would fulfill any wish he had. The day of the banquet arrived, and the peasant arrived at the court. After a long and rich meal, the king finally turned to him and asked him for his wish. The peasant opened a little pouch and took out a human finger bone, and asked to have the weight of the bone in gold for him to take home for his reward. Everyone in the throne chamber laughed at him and thought it was a silly and less smart request. The king had his servants bring a scale, each side a chain hanging holding a plate. The bone was placed on one plate, and the king's servant brought in a small bag of gold coins, which he had wanted to give the peasant anyway, because he knew the peasant would get out poorly because of his request. After several gold coins were placed on the other side of the scale, to everybody's surprise, the little bone did still weigh more. The scale was checked. It was in order, and the entire bag of gold coins was placed on the scale. Still, there was no movement. More and more bags of gold coins were brought in and placed on the scale. Even the scale plate had to be enlarged to hold the bags. Still, they did not outweigh the little bone. Then the king looked at the peasant and asked, "What is the trick?" "Well, king, it is very simple. The bone which we have here is from a very greedy man who passed away." Everybody at the court had a big laugh, and so did the group at the table listening to Jim Jara's story. Shania did not grasp the entire story, and to be sure asked, "What is a greedy man?" Jim Jara explained that everything in our worldly adventure is just a momentary gift. And some people get so extreme holding on to their possessions, not even wanting to share them, which is the negative passion of greed. After some time, Jim Jara excused himself. He had to go to different locations, sharing his stories and having to attend a meeting at his palace. He promised Shania to spend more time with her, and then he walked over to the painting of the door. The door opened and stepped on his carpet and took off. Then the door closed itself. The symbol of Ertos. The night was setting in, and now it was cooling off, and some dwarfins started to bring the fire in the open fireplace to its full capacity, and it became even more cozy. "You really can get lazy around here," said Janai. "I hope you mean lazy and relaxed, because for some visitors our atmosphere has a negative effect. They really get lazy, procrastinate, and do not want to do anything anymore. Some people need different elements around them." Shania was listening to Ertos, but drifting away at the same time. After some minutes, Niama walked Shania up to their room, which looked like the warmest decorated place in the world. A wooden floor with wooden rugs, lazy-looking furniture, thick draperies, and the most impressive, coziest bed she had ever seen. She said good night to Niama and went to sleep. After a good night's sleep, Shania met everybody at the breakfast table, greeted everyone, and took her seat opposite Ertos, and stared at her rotating earth symbol in the medallion hanging on his chest. The symbol started to spin faster and faster, and became bigger and bigger, drawing Janai inside, and suddenly she found herself standing but floating in the middle of a three-dimensional round theater screen. "Hello, Janai," spoke the familiar deep and warm voice. "It is me, Ertos, and I thought to give you a tour to see what all has been created throughout history, which is being created at the moment, and what will be created in the future with my energy and power of Earth. Because you know by now that I am the substance of things in Crystallia, the creation." Janai looked at the history of creation. She saw how the universe formed itself with all the galaxies and its planets, and on the planets the different forms of life, ranging from plant life to the beings inhabiting the planet, and the things they created. Janai was amazed that she could keep up with the speed of that which was revealed to her. Most interesting was the future with its modern cities, technology, and the private space mobiles flying in between the enormous buildings, but also flying to and from other planets. On some planets she saw beings half man, half robot as a result of depleting health. Parts and pieces in and outside the body were replaced with computerized devices. Then Ertos showed Shania what inhabitants of the planet Earth were all doing incorrectly and contributing to the destruction of their own planet. Shania was familiar with most of these matters, but it was good to have them confirmed. It ranged from cutting the trees to polluting the air, soil and waters, and much more. By seeing this, her excitement went down a bit, but it picked up instantly when she saw other planets and the life on it returning to harmoniously and conscious living. Suddenly, the special theater show was over, and Genii looked at Ertos, smiling face, and said, "That was incredible. Anytime you want to see more, just let me know, Genii." She looked at Niama, who was also smiling. Seemingly she knew all what just had happened. "How long will creation exist?" Morai asked Genii. "As long as there is one positive thought in the universe, the creation will continue, and Ertos' work with contributing with the element Earth will also continue." "That means that one positive thought is stronger than the entire negative, correct?" "You are correct," answered Morai. After breakfast, Genii saw preparation being made for a journey, and asked, "Do you know where we are going?" looking at Niama. "We are going to Sparakuta in the Silent Mountains," responded Niama. Trapped by a snowstorm. Everybody was comfortably sitting together, and she heard many talks on why the weather conditions were changing, especially because of the metallicondas at Darkania producing pollution affecting the entire inner sphere of the planet. The recyclons felt trapped as too much waste caused by the greed and production in Darkania needed to be recycled, which as well caused pollution that didn't need to be there. The balance in nature was disturbed, and it would take a lot of effort to restore it. Niama commented that we can help by caring better about ourselves, and this sounded like something her dad would have said. This was a perfect moment for Toro to show up, and he started on the subject about reflections of natural disasters. Other visitors at the inn gathered and listened in as well. Toro started to speak. "Just as our bodies give us messages of inner imbalances, so does the body of the planet, because it also expresses the imbalances man is causing to himself, others, and the world. Everything affects everything. See the harm we do to ourselves, ranging from the unhealthy foods, the stress and unhealthy lifestyles we lead. All our actions have many reactions, and just as our bodies try to wake us up through giving us endless messages, so does the planet. For any imbalance seeks balance, and sometimes life becomes hard in order to change things around." Genii was thinking about sending Sarina to look at Darkania and bringing her information about all the bad things the Collecterians were doing to themselves and the planet, but remembered that it would be impossible as she would risk Sarina to be killed by the Collecterians. Sarina would have been looked upon as a hawk and spy and hunted down. Just before they were to leave, a snowstorm came in. They had to get back to the inn and had to spend several days inside. Morai received plenty of attention to assist his back pain, especially from the healing hands of Niama, but also from other therapists on staff. Genii learned about polarity therapy, Alexander therapy techniques, Rolfing, chiropractic adjustments, and many other self-healing assisting modalities. Genii tried to document everything, and doing some research on her bracelet computer. Over and over again, Genii was amazed to see that every evening the dwarfins and gullots created delicious plates, which normally could have been looked upon as a limited selection of foods. Because Genii especially liked potatoes, She enjoyed them in various ways. They were prepared such as baked whole, sliced and baked, mashed combined with mushrooms, carrots, onions, garlic, soups with carrots and onions, patties and pies. Jimjara showed up bringing a message that seemingly the Collectarians had been observing Ertos and his party when they left Portugal, and had planned some bad things. The weather conditions were getting worse, and they had to stay inside. That night they experienced some trembling as the Collectarians were using explosives to cause avalanches as there was so much snow on the mountains. The entrance tunnel got blocked, and the enormous amount of snow coming down with the avalanches completely covered the entire village and, of course, the inn. It was an enormous noise when the snow fell on the roof, which luckily was strong enough. All the visitors woke up, and Ertos assured them not to panic as there was plenty of oxygen coming from Cyclondor. There was plenty of food, and it was just a matter of time waiting for the weather to change. Morai was getting a little better every day, tried to keep everybody's mind off the situation, and started small discourses. Genai at one point in time was talking about being homesick, and Morai took on the subject that helped her in the matter. Everybody was welcome to listen in. Everything is a momentary experience. From a spiritual point of view, we are eternal forces of life, souls, children, and energies of sound and light. Equipped with a mind and body, we came to experience creation, the world of opposites, the dimension of time where everything changes constantly. Life is an experience of moments, places, faces, and events. The mind, which is unfortunately run by the sense organs, took over the soul's adventure and started to identify with itself and Crystallia the creation. As long as the mind is ruled by the sense organs, we struggle unnecessarily in the adventure. We are trapped in and attached to many worldly experiences we want to hold on to. Others we want to see coming back, and again others we don't want to have coming in our life at all. By living life this way, we miss out on a beautiful and magical intended experience. Dionyx had again taken the opportunity and had changed everybody into expedition outfits and had given several of the listeners huge backpacks. When he got the eye from Morai, he changed everybody back into their normal clothes. In the adventure of life, each experience is a one-time unique experience, and life should be an ongoing adventure of new experiences without real security, without comparing, and totally individual and unique. Life is an ever-changing adventure to discover new treasures and new experiences. The mind needs to understand that it is not the ruler of the show. It needs to stay in a state of consciousness, guided by your inner guide and the guidance of the keepers of the universe and the balancing divanas. It needs to stay aware of the most negative side within us. And for this, even Kalimo Banco can assist us in this mission. Use the Sacred Council and tune into them. Genai was much excited to hear this, as it was exactly what her father had been looking for. She realized that all the treasures her father had been searching for in one place, the sacred archives, was not one particular place, but spread out treasures all over the entire universe. And also in your mind, whispered Niyama, who was sitting next to her in her ears. Life is an ongoing experience. where we have the opportunity to experience constant new in each moment, either from a physical, mental, or emotional point of view. We are here to experience the material energies, creation, the balancing forces of nature and universe, breathing, crawling, walking, running, driving, flying, working, studying, relationships, parenting, children, marriage, places, faces, touching, sensing, smelling, hearing, tasting, and seeing, resting, sleeping, time, stages of life, changing, seasons, night, days, sun, moon, foods, countries, cities, streets, cars, homes, exercise, thoughts, conversations, emotions, feelings, dreams, wishes, fantasies, and much more. But be careful not to get trapped in the adventure of experiences. Shania said, "Is this not a trick to not letting you enjoy life? For how can you enjoy something when you cannot have it again? You eat an ice cream and it tastes great. Why wouldn't you want to experience this again?" Morai answered, "There is maybe nothing wrong wanting to experience that same taste again. But when you cannot get it, or when it doesn't taste the same, and basically have an expectation, you are doomed to disappointment. You can only get disappointed as long as you have expectations." Someone said, "But life is built on expectations." Morai answered, "People expect their children to behave a certain way. And when the expectation is not met, how far do we want to go? Physically punishing them? We study and expect a job. Does it always work this way? We want to go on vacation. We expect that all works smoothly and that the plane will leave on time. Does it? We want to secure everything. The media is very aware of our insecurities and expectations and offers us security to the extent that we can eat the same food all over the globe, having the same looks, tastes, and even the same price. Is this an adventure? And is this how you want to continue living your life? Shania said, "No, I do not want to live it this way. But is there no security at all?" Morai explained further, "Our real self, the soul, will live forever, and one day we will have to leave this physical body. Everything in life constantly changes as there are no two moments the same. For every action, there will be a reaction. Everything in creation and every experience is created in the world of opposites, has two sides, and trust that both sides will show up. Everybody has basic needs, and when they are not met, there will be suffering. Everything has a lifespan, which, with the exception of the soul, an eternal life force in everything. Everything comes and goes. These are some of the securities we have, and you can count on them." It is also so different than the securities we expect, but it makes all sense to me. Looking at Shania, Morai continued, "You lived this adventure well, and some of your such-called securities came to an end. Your father had to leave, your mother got sick, and you needed to take care of your brother and sister. It seems that you had to face this reality, but now you have to find that magic of adventure back in different circumstances, because none of the stages of life are the same. By getting a different look at life, and that's why you are as well on this adventure, you can find back the magic in every circumstance. Like the magic you got in your eyes coming to Portugal, where you can use them as binoculars, and the same for your decoding glasses. You just have to start looking through different eyes at life. Look with all the new information you are gathering through your eyes and look through them as as a crystal child of love and life, being on a vacation in Crystalia the creation. I will do my best, Morai. I know that you will succeed, because Kandu and all the other council members are seemingly inviting you and guiding you. They do not invite you and do not invite you to fail. They invite you knowing that you can do it. They assist you to succeed. Thank you for your encouraging words, Morai. Shania asked Niyama, what are the balancing divanas, which Morai just mentioned before? They are the 17 law keepers of the universe, and together with the 7 keepers, the main team of Kalimabanco that are in charge to keep Crystalia the creation going. When it is written in your adventure book of life, you will visit them. It would be another great experience for you to see how everything in the universe is regulated. What did you mean with the words you whispered in my ears before regarding the mind? Niyama answered, all the treasures we seek in the external world are to be found in our mind as well. But how is that possible? Asked Shania. Remember the talk from Toro that everything is a reflection from within ourselves? Yes, but that had to do with the conditions of the planet and the body. Everything is a reflection from our mind, in which we can find everything possible in Crystalia the creation. We can only recognize things when they are already inside of us. So you mean to say that all the treasures of the sacred archives are to be found inside our mind? Correct. But then why do I not just go inside my mind and find them? Maybe you are already inside your mind and slowly finding them. Niyama, seeing that it was all getting too much for Shania, said, do not think too much, but just enjoy the adventure. During the next days, Morai is getting extra care. Toro and even Jimjara stayed around and sharing lots of things with Shania. The night before the snowstorm stopped, Shania woke up and noticed that Niyama, who was sharing her room, was not present. She walked down and found Niyama, Morai, Ertos, Dionyx, Jimjara, and Toro all sitting together by the fireplace. A secret meeting in the night. Half asleep, she laid next to Niyama and listened in to their meeting, regarding that something serious was hanging in the air regarding the Collecterians. More Collecterians had been noticed everywhere, and that's why Ertos had gone for several days to see for himself when they stayed in Miniok City. They also talked about the new tactics of stealing. The most interesting was to hear why it was hard to pick up on the Collecterians' thoughts. Morai stating that wickedness is hard to see when you are not living in that reality. Shania suddenly woke up saying, why cannot Jimjara and Toro go through their special way of having access to the entire universe to Darkania and spy what the Collecterians are up to? Toro answering, that wouldn't work, Shania, because we can only enter when someone seeks to have one of us in their life, and basically there is no Collecterian inviting us, nor even wanting us in their life. But couldn't any of the both of you transport one of us to Spartakuta, and the others could then follow? This is against the law of magic. Someone already needs to be somewhere and calling for us. Magic has its rules, asked Shania. Yes, even magic has some rules and regulations and restrictions, as it is part of the creation. It is only when we go beyond the realm of Kalimobanko, the world of mind and matter, that there are no laws anymore, answered Morai. Then, let's go through that realm. That may first take a lifetime of meditation and silent prayer. And what about traveling underground through Cyclandor? Great idea, Janai, but only at the main entrance of Cyclandor in the ruins of the old empire could we enter and travel for some time. The tunnels underground that connect most places on the planet are not big enough for us to travel through, with the exception under the major cities. Remember that the tallest recyclon is 2 feet tall? Don't forget either that there are not tunnels everywhere, answered Niyama. But can you not send some recyclon to spy over there? The recyclons are not up to this task. Their capacity and contribution is just in regards to garbage and recycling, spoke Dionyx. What about traveling through the shadow world? That was my next point on the agenda, spoke Ertos. But let me first explain, Janai, how that all works. The shadow world is a space dimension that brings all the realms, planets and galaxies of the entire creation closer together, and for that reason space and time can be overbridged. Entering the shadow world, all realms, planets and galaxies become like shadows shifting and moving over, under and through each other. The way to not get lost is to identify with the destination by knowing its name and a visual picture of that destination, and letting the computer steering your space transportation in that direction. As all shadows constantly move, the travel time and space also changes, and it is very hard to plan any arrival time, especially with far distant trips. It is also a dangerous world to move through, as constantly new realms, planets and galaxies are being born and others die. The attractions of the new worlds are hard to resist and one can get lost, changing your course by exploring these new worlds and forgetting your primal destination. It is just as dangerous or confusing knowing the name and having the right vision of one's destination, but not knowing that that realm, planet or galaxy has lost its life for one reason or another since you visited it last. So why do we not fly through the shadow world straight to Sparakuta? Responded Chennai. Here we have another situation. We have discovered that there must be some spies in the administration of our spaceport in Portugal. Seemingly, every space transportation with any destination in my realm runs into trouble. What kind of trouble? Asked Morai. Before any of them leave, something happens to the engine or the over-dimensional flying space creatures becoming sick. So we cannot risk this for the Hansas and the Golden Space Carriage. These acts of terrorism must not be taken lightly, answered Ertos. To everyone's surprise, Morai stood up and, although carefully, started to move around. How did that happen, Morai? I don't know, but I'm able to move around, but it feels that I must be careful and taking it easy. Everybody was relieved seeing Morai walking again. A feeling inside Janai, connected to fear that he would never be able to walk again, left her. I was afraid that you would never be able to walk again, Morai. It had crossed my mind as well, and I would have accepted it. The trick is to completely accept each moment in life, to get a clear picture, which often helps by decoding and then to make a strategy, but that again without any expectation. That is not easy to do, but I think it is the only way to get in a harmonious way through each situation. Niama and Tor confirmed what Morai said, and they as well agreed that many times in life we would forget again this awareness, but once there is this awareness, it will always get us back on track without having to become a victim of any circumstances. Shania, excited, said, "So, why don't we go back on our horses to Portugal, take another ship, plan our destination outside Ertos realm, and once outside through the shadow world, we fly into Sparakuta?" "That's a great idea," spoke Niama, and the others nodded, probably wondering why they didn't come up with this solution. They decided to fly through the shadow world and choosing a destination outside Ertos realm, and then to fly into Sparakuta for more treatments regarding Morai's condition. Toro and Jimjara left to their respective realms, and the next morning, when the storm had passed, the dwarfins and gullets residing in the village started to clean the snow away that had buried the entire village. The Recyclons had made an exception on Ertos' request and showed up during the day with an uncountable team assisting to clean the snow. In no time, the village and the access tunnel were clean. As soon as the homes were cleared from the snow, they went back on horse to Portugal, except for Morai, who was this time riding a sleigh that moved with ease through the snow. It was not possible yet for Morai to ride a horse, and riding a sledge was less obvious than the hovering bed. Like usual, Direnex played his magical fashion tricks and dressed Morai up as Santa and the horses as reindeer. Back at Portugal, they all stayed hiding inside their robes and went to the port, rented a spaceship, and left for a special planet on which Niama resided and called Vinex, located in a galaxy called Gemestos, a destination outside Ertos realm. Ertos decided to stay behind in Portugal to keep an eye on the Collecterian situation and of course tending to his usual business. Through the Shadow World, they would left for the planet where Niama resided. Shania took the opportunity to ask Niama about the planet and her life. Niama was very accommodating because she knew Shania was scared going through the shadow world as everything around them constantly changed, as if the world was turning inside out, then outside in, and a second later everything she saw above was below them. Everything shifted so fast and totally unknown, without any feeling or direction. Niama's home quarters. Niama tried to distract Shania and said, "You know, Shania, that I live in the worlds in between, and I often go on vacation to Morai's Crystal Mountains, just to meditate, but every time he asks me to go back and continue with the other wise men and women assisting there where help is needed. I get mostly assigned to the planet Earth, because I lived there before, and I am more familiar with people's needs. However, in the worlds in between I have also my residence, and together with many other elderly brothers and sisters, we live together in a community in a far distant galaxy called Gemestos on the planet Vinex, in the middle of a forest. I got my position here after the one before me had fulfilled her duty and returned permanent to Kandu's Ocean of Love. Here at Vinex, we organize exhibitions, seminars, courses and retreats regarding art in any form, working with plants and herbs. We have many different groups coming from all over the universe, and we love to have children around. Many times have I visited the other side of the unknown universe, where you can find a replica of our world here. There is just a difference in time between them. The other side seems to have it still better together. I have seen cultures where individuals mature but do not become old in the way we know of. The elderly generation is still full of zest, with lots of energy. In today's society, on the other side of the universe, and especially on the planet Earth, we see most people getting old, stiff, stubborn, and sick, which is a combination of how they have lived life and their status of awareness. This picture we give to the youngsters, who most likely continue in the same footsteps. This picture is in need to be changed to what it could be. We live a life bound to routines and false securities, and we will become robot-like. The body freezes and becomes stiff. We look at life as something hard, and our body will become hard. We stress ourselves through life and eating unhealthy, and the body will get confronted with sickness. We close our mind, ears and heart off for the new experiences in life, and we end up being called stubborn. We become afraid of endless things in life and afraid of death. Fear takes out the life and love in the adventure. When we would live our lives as an adventure, being open for the unknown and dancing and playing through and with its experiences, and consuming wholesome foods, we can experience the mature and be vital, flexible, aware, and wise. These are the examples our youngsters need. When such called success in life is the price to end up being old, stiff, stubborn, and sick, we may want to ask ourselves, is that the price I want to pay? And is this the example which I want to set for the next generation? A wise person always looks at the bigger picture and questions, with everything he or she does, how does it affect me, others, and the world at large? I'm eager to see where you live, Niyama. We will just peep in, because we need to get to Sparakuta to continue Morai treatments. But why can we not treat Morai in your planet? This time of the year, almost all the healers are out on missions elsewhere in the universe, and Toro and myself had discussed that Sparakuta would be the best for Morai. In addition, we have made a promise to Ertos to keep an eye on the situation regarding the Collectorians. When they came out of the Shadow World, Niyama asked Dionyx to hover above her residence. Genai, with her eyes functioning as binoculars, could see everything in detail, while Niyama explained as much as possible. The community looked like a camp of Bedouin tents, but the dwellings are made out of wood and mud. In the center stood a huge Bedouin-shaped building surrounded by various cycles with smaller tent-shaped buildings, creating that feeling of a camp. The center building represents the heart and soul of the community and is also designated for connecting and awakening of one's spirit. It includes a full library of literature regarding every aspect of daily living and most known meditation methods, religious studies, philosophy, and sciences. The courtyard has the feeling of a Zen garden in which meditation and the giving of discourses takes place. Genai looks at very little individuals walking around, but many creatures, half human, half animals, and ask, What are those creatures, Niyama? I will introduce you to them as soon as we get a chance, but let's observe our community camp. The first cycle you see around the center, with many smaller buildings, is designed for the giving of classes on all kinds of subjects to live life more harmoniously. The second circle is with buildings for the purpose of gathering, dance and nourishment. There are many natural health food stores and raw food restaurants. In the third circle, one can find the following services. Services provided by individual healthcare professionals, bodywork and massages, and endless other rejuvenating therapies. There are facilities for exercising, gym facilities, and various apartments for the resident and visiting therapists. The fourth circle is where the residents and the guest accommodations are located. Each circle was clearly divided by a thick round hedge, with, of course, entrances in between to get to and from the different circles. Niyama further explained that this symbolic setting is connected to the gathering of the ancient tribal family, guided by wise men and women. This is a place for self-healing, centering, sharing, education, play and storytelling. In our community, nobody pays with money, and unfortunately we are not sophisticated to work with the life credit system, but all here is done through trading, exchanging goods or giving time with your time and or skills. We try to live in harmony as good as we can and try to be of help to anybody who comes around. We go often with our groups into the forest and learn directly from nature, talking with the spirits of the plants and trees. Or do you think that only humans communicate? We live consciously with the moving of the planets, the seasons, and the energies of the different days of the week, and the energy cycles of the day, for everything is constantly changing and all giving us different experiences. A lot of knowledge is shown to us by cycles, the balancing force and Dhyana, representing the phenomena of cycles. We have gardens everywhere, and we have learned from the plants and foods what should be standing next to each other and what not, and many other secrets mankind has lost by not living with and in nature anymore. After they landed in a clearing next to the community camp, they walked from the outside into this very interesting village setup. Dynamics, like usually, had changed everybody in outfits just made of natural things coming from nature, but immediately got the eye from Morai and changed everybody back. Shania looked at the creatures, and Niyama, picking up on her thoughts, said, "These are our friends, and we make studies of their behaviors, and we can see clearly the behaviors of man representing their characteristics. In the night, they live in Magic Forest, and during the day, they live amongst us. There is Barros, looking half man, half bear, sometimes showing off a little bit too much of his strength. Look, there is Pigaros, who eats like a pig and dwells in dirty areas, and Vulturum, looking half vulture, half man, always looking for easy ways to get food." Slowly walking to the second circle, where they had planned for some food, they passed two other creatures, and Niyama commenting, "That is Snakeskin, who is not to be trusted, and Gazello, moving faster than the eye can follow. One day, when there is more time, I will talk more about the animals within us." "The animals within us?" What do you mean? We have all these expressions like eating like a pig, clever as a fox, strong as a bear, free as a bird, and many more. And it is amazing how we resemble them at times, and some of us all the time. Although the animal lives in the kingdom of fear, the world of attack and defense, there is a purpose in their cycle of life. Unfortunately, many of us do not have a grip on our mind and behave worse than an animal. Sorry, I have to take this back. We behave in ways animals would not even do. We call ourselves intellectual beings, but it doesn't make any sense by looking at what we do to ourselves, to each other, the planet, and our resources in order to live. They entered a small open-air restaurant completely made with natural waste coming from the forest, and some other mature fellow beings and visitors joined them as well for a complete raw meal. After the meal, Niyama was asked to speak about living with nature. Her fellow workers had not seen her for a while, and because there were just few of them left in the sanctuary, they thought it would be nice for the small group of visitors to have a different face-to-face talking about some information that could benefit them before returning to their home planets. Niyama started speaking, saying, "Most individuals do not live in nature anymore, but there is plenty we can learn from it. In nature we see the evidence of constant change, how everything adapts and lives without destruction. Most of us here have lived in difficult situations, and nature was our guide to help and heal us. Some of us throughout the ages became medicine men and women of the tribes. They became herbalists and healers, special gardeners, working with the spirits of nature and animals, or even became alchemists. Nature respects us, and we respect nature, and we have a good relationship. It is a constant being reminded that the things in Crystallia, the creation, offer us what the creation offers us and how they keep on giving even though we may abuse the relationship. This awareness may help us in our human relationship, which is more complicated as we create our struggle by not wanting to give anymore, or calculating in our giving, or expecting something in return. We can learn from nature as it always wants to give and gives equal to anybody and without an expectation. The life we lead in our modern world is not with the aim to learn from nature and to live in harmony, but about money, power, possessions, and short-lived moments of happiness and no inner peace. The art of healthy living and living in harmony with each other has been given in the hands of producers and manufacturers of food, medicine, insurance companies, and the police force and man-made law systems. Most individuals run through life accumulating and their body accumulates. They are totally stressed out, fighting within themselves, others and the world, and facing endless signs, symptoms and diseases. Is this the true cost of happiness? The listeners thanked Niyama, and Janai asked, "Niyama, is it normal here that when individuals enter, that instead of seeking a table for themselves, that they join someone already sitting?" "Correct, Janai. We have our private meditation time being alone, but in most activities we work together, and it is the same practice while taking meals. In general, we do not speak while eating, but talk before and after." Niyama apologized her and said that it was time to continue their journey to Sparakuta. Just for you to know, Janai, we here have observed you all your entire life, and we are so glad when we are called upon to be of assistance. We are ready to share all our knowledge and experience with you and know that you will become one day a mature and wise woman. The world is desperately in need of mature, vital and wise men and women. Janai looked around as much as she could while walking back to the spaceship. You live in a beautiful world, Grandma. I know. And everybody on the planet Earth needs to get back on track and recreating this kind of world before it is too late.